Oklahoma has had a unideal season, to put it simply. We'll start here. Oklahoma fires Seth Littrell, the offensive coordinator. And I think Oklahoma fans had been chanting for this for the better part of this season. And I get it. Like, you look at the numbers offensively for them, scoring 22 points a game. It's 93rd in America. They're averaging 4.1 yards a play. That's 132nd in America. Like, bottom of the barrel kind of stuff. Oklahoma Sooner fans, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, nothing but college football, year-round. We appreciate you for being dialed in, for making this channel what it is. And so to some degree, you're like, hey, man, somebody's got to be held responsible here for this. And I alluded to this at the top of the live show. One of my favorite movies, don't knock it, National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage plays a character named Ben Gates. And at the end of the movie now, they get the treasure, vibes are high, everything's good. However, they still, did break the law to get the national treasure. Spoiler, they stole the Declaration of Independence. And so the police chief is talking to Ben Gates, and he says, Ben, is there anything I can do for you here? You found this treasure. Can we do anything for you here? He says, you know what? I'd really love to not go to prison. And the police chief looks at him and he says, someone's got to go to prison, Ben. I think that's the same situation here. It's obviously not prison we're talking about, so that's a good thing if you're Seth Littrell. Hey, somebody's got to be held responsible here for the offensive output or the lack thereof offensively for Oklahoma. And to be real, like I said, I get it, and I'm not in the room in Norman, but y'all, we've been saying this since the offseason. If Jackson Arnold could make up for the what you don't have on offense situation, vibes could be great. However, you're asking a lot of a first-year starting quarterback in Jackson Arnold, and we've seen this whole thing play out. There's only so much a man can do as the OC at Oklahoma, man. I feel for the guy a little bit. You're breaking in a new offensive line in the most difficult conference from a trench perspective in America, arguably. You have the strength of your offense, which is your wide receiver room, which we were fired up about before the year started. Have a CVS receipt length of injury report every single week. Like, you do not have your fastball offensively. And I understand there was excitement about Jackson Arnold, and I still think that it's probably a little bit too soon to define what his college career is going to be. But, my guy's a first-year starting quarterback in the SEC. It might take a second. I don't know if it matters if you have Seth Littrell back there or if you have Jeff Lebby or you got Andy Reid. I think the situation kind of is what it is. And that's not me trying to dunk on Oklahoma. I'm just trying to add some context here. Yes, someone's got to be responsible. But if we're being real about this, I don't know that it's all the way on Seth Littrell. I think some of it's bad luck. I think some of it's personnel. And I think some of it's just straight up, you got to find a way to do more. And that's the other part of this, too. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you're yelling at your podcast machine or yelling at your laptop watching on YouTube. You're saying, yeah, JD, we get it. It's not all on him. But you got to do more. You got to do more with what we have on this roster, with the expectations at Oklahoma. You got to do more. And that's definitely true. Could you get more out of your offense? I think it's hard for me to sit here and tell you without, a shadow of a doubt, no, the offense is what it is. I hear that. However, is that changing the record? I don't think so. Are you beating Texas? I don't think so. Are you beating Tennessee? Maybe you make that game a little bit more interesting, but that Tennessee defense is what it is, man. The South Carolina operation, say what you want about what South Carolina hasn't been over the course of the last year, that is a legit defensive line. With your offensive line, it was not going to go the way that you wanted it to go. Maybe it's not as ugly, but that wasn't the game that I felt like Oklahoma was going to win going into that thing. So now, the latest development outside of Seth Littrell being fired as your offensive coordinator is you go back to Jackson Arnold as your QB1. This is where I think there's maybe a little glimmer of hope. Because the conversation a week and a half ago was, all right, Jackson Arnold going to sit the rest of the year more than likely behind true freshman Michael Hawkins Jr. And then, we're all smart people here. We can all understand what quarterbacks typically do when they're not going to play at one school. They find another school to go to. So that was the conversation. Well, what if, assuming Jackson Arnold ends up portaling somewhere else? That was the assumption. Well, now, Jackson Arnold being thrown the keys to this offense, and what happens postseason, I have no idea. I have no idea. I can't tell the future. But all I will say is all that preseason pressure around Jackson Arnold to uphold the standard at Oklahoma and for Oklahoma to be a surprise team in the SEC and all the receivers they had, all that pressure is now gone. And while pressure is privilege and you would like there to be that pressure now on Oklahoma to be able to save the season in some ways, I think Jackson Arnold is living out the movie Max Keeble's Big Move. Quoting a lot of movies here today. It is what it is. In that movie, Max Keeble, maybe it's Keebler. I think it's Keeble. Max Keeble finds out his family is going to move. And so my guys at school, I'm not even going to be here next year. And I don't know if that's Jackson Arnold's case, but I will say the pressure is off Max Keeble where he's like, I can just be free, do what I want to do, live my life. And again, I'm not making a take here that Jackson Arnold transfers after the year. That's not what I'm saying at all. Do not hear me incorrectly. But again, the pressure off Jackson Arnold here is massive. He now can just go out there and sling it. Nobody's looking at Oklahoma every single week. No one's targeting them as the next college game day game. I'm just saying now, house money is a dangerous thing to play with. And so Oklahoma's rolling into this game against Ole Miss, and the spread's like 20 points or something like that. I'm just saying, wouldn't be surprised if a five-star quarterback with the pressure off his shoulders ended up being a positive thing for Oklahoma. Not saying they win the football game, but maybe, just maybe, we start to think differently about Jackson Arnold and his future now in Norman. Not a prediction. I'm just saying keep an eye on that. That's worth noting. Last thing I'll say here, the Brent Venables conversation obviously gets a lot of momentum right around now because, hey, things went how they went against South Carolina. You got to fire an OC. And so what does that mean about Brent Venables and his job security? If you want to hold Brent Venables responsible for the roster, totally fair. That's absolutely within the realm of, I think, what's acceptable when it comes to blame for him. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't remember, hey, this team did win 10 games last year, right? He's proven he can coach football. You got one bad year, which was the first year where you had the portal exodus and you go and win 6 games. Cool. It is what it is. You win 10 games the next year, and then this year you roll into the season with the roster you have. Again, if you want to blame him for that, totally fair. But I don't know that we define Brent Venables by his first year in the SEC with a brand spanking new offensive line, with a new quarterback, 44% production back on offense. It kind of just is what it is right now. And so to say that you know without a shadow of a doubt, hey, Brent Venables is not the guy, come on, man. Come on. I get it. We want to be passionate about the greatest sport on the face of planet Earth. I'm all here for it. I feel the same way to some degree about the passion part of this, but at the same time, you hired Brent Venables for the long haul, for the culture, for the way he does things, for the way that he gets Oklahoma. Let's let it marinate a little bit. Let's not be knee-jerky because the first year in the SEC isn't going exactly how you would have hoped. We're talking about the sky falling. Oklahoma could still rattle off a few wins here, have a couple of statement situations, and maybe things are different for them as we finish out the season. Oklahoma's not dead in the water. Let's all just make sure we're on the same page there. Does it look great? Does it look bleak? Yeah, it doesn't look awesome right now. But again, around Brent Venables, let's simmer down a little bit here. Let's all take a chill pill, and we'll see where we are here when we get to January. Let's attack the portal. Let's have a different roster this time next year. If you're calling for Brent Venables' head, I respect the passion, but I think you're way out of bounds there.